Hi and welcome to today's episode, which is all about prolonging the life of some delicious summer fruits, red currants. The summer in the UK has been a complete washout so far. It's rained every day for the past 3 weeks, if not 4, but apparently that's optimal weather for red currants, and I've got a massive amount of them. Spent about 2 hours yesterday picking a load, covered in scratches, and my shoulder is wrecked. But it's totally worth it because these are delicious. If you haven't come across them before, they're a little red berry and there's kind of a big seed inside. This is probably a third of what I picked. I had some last night for dessert and then I've still got a massive box full. Red currants will freeze reasonably well, but I thought, well, maybe I'll try and make a chutney or something and then I can show YouTube how to make one. So that's what we're doing today. If you haven't got red currants, if they're not in season or if you can't get hold of them, or you're watching this in the winter, don't worry, I'll give you some alternative ideas of what you can use instead. If you haven't come across a chutney before, it's kind of a sweet and tangy, sticky little condiment. I think they come originally from India. It's going to be a little condiment type thing, so you can have it on the side of dinner, you know, like a cranberry sauce kind of thing, or pop it on a bit of cheese and crackers. I'm basing mine on a recipe I found on BBC Good Food. I will stick the link in the description for you. I'm going to double the quantity and add some other extra bits and pieces that I think will taste yummy. I'm going to start by chopping 4 small red onions. If you've got the big kind of red onions, then just use 2. You can also use white onions at a pinch as well. And I'm just heating up a couple tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil in a frying pan. To dice the onion, I'm just going to cut off the kind of sprouting end, cut that down the middle. I'm leaving the root bit attached and I've got something to hang on to. Take off the outer couple of layers of the peel, just because they're a bit tough. Then I'll make a few vertical cuts into it. Spin that around. Then once the oil comes up to temperature, drop the onions in. I'm going to fry them off until softened, so about 6 to 8 minutes or so. Adding a little pinch of salt, 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon or so. We're just looking to get them nice and softened with a little bit of colour on there. I'm adding fresh garlic and ginger into mine. You can use dried at a pinch, but you are going to get a better flavour using the fresh stuff. Doing my garlic in a garlic press. You can do it by hand as well if you want, not a problem. You can use a little grater to do the ginger. This one's going to be really fiddly to try and peel, so I'm just not going to bother. I think in this it'll be fine because it's going to be cooked and it's quite thin as well. So that's about where we want the onions. A little bit golden, nice and soft. So I'm just going to pop those in a separate bowl. The next stage is to put the garlic and ginger into the pan along with some chilli. I've taken it off the heat just so it's not getting any heat and burning while I'm trying to do something. And I'm then going to add in some vinegar. The recipe states 200 mils of red wine vinegar. I made up this vinegar syrup a while ago, you made with boysenberries. I steeped, I think it was 1/2 kilo or maybe 1 kilo of boysenberries in apple cider vinegar. And then you add sugar in and simmer it down until it becomes a syrup. I've had it for a few years now. I think it was in the first lockdown that I did it. And it's just been chilling in the cupboard. So I thought, oh, I'll use that. And then it's a bit of extra flavour in the chutney as well. So I did 200 mils of the syrup and 200 of just straight apple cider vinegar. I'll add the garlic and ginger. So that was 4 cloves of garlic and maybe 2 tablespoons of grated ginger. I'll put the remainder of this jar of chili flakes. Let's have a look. So that's probably a teaspoon. Feel free to leave the chili out if you don't want it in there. And then pour the syrup in. And then we're going to put this back on the heat and let that bubble away. I'll bring it to the boil, and then once it starts a rolling bubble, then I'll drop it to a simmer. Just double check the BBC recipe, and I was supposed to do half the vinegar. I can't see why it'd make a difference because it says add half the vinegar, let it boil for 2 minutes, then add the remaining ingredients, including the rest of the vinegar. So I can't see it's going to make a massive difference. So it's at a nice vigorous boil, so I'm going to drop that down to a simmer, take it to thaw. Now it's been simmering for a couple of minutes, I'm going to start adding the other bits in. My eyes are stinging because of the vinegar, so just be a bit mindful of that. If I wasn't filming, I'd have the extractor on much higher. The original recipe wants 140 grams of light brown soft sugar. So doubling that would be 280, but because that syrup has got sugar in it, I've just done 200, and then I'll taste it and maybe add a little bit more, like a tablespoon at a time kind of thing. So unless you've got a sugary vinegar syrup, do the 280. I'm adding mustard seeds into mine. They've got really nice texture when you bite into them, a little bit crunchy almost, a bit like chia seeds. They've also got a little bit of flavour to them as well. The final addition on my part is going to be some pomegranate molasses. This is pomegranate juice that's been boiled down until it becomes a really thick liquid. Don't substitute this for treacle or molasses though, because that flavour is going to dominate rather than having the really subtle, lovely flavours from the red currants and the other bits. So it's not a like for like swap, just leave this out if you haven't got it. But it's worth having because it lasts years in the cupboard. It's got it's like a tangy, sweet, delicious kind of taste to it. You can have it almost as a cordial, so a bit of this in some fizzy water. Delicious. All right, so let's start adding things to the pan. You can add another teaspoon of salt. I put the initial half teaspoon in there to help draw liquid out of the onions. Those are the mustard seeds there. So I'm going to do 2 teaspoons of those. I'm using Chinese 5 spice. This is star anise, cloves, that kind of thing. So I'll do 2 teaspoons of that. Probably do like a tablespoon of the pomegranate molasses. Give that a little stir. Then I'll add the light brown soft sugar. You can probably use white sugar as well, but this has got a nice caramel flavour to it. And I just want to get that starting to melt before I start putting the onions back in, just to make it easier to stir. Then pop the onions back in. And then bring this back up to a boil. That needs to boil away for about 5 minutes, just so it starts thickening and reducing, becoming sticky and wonderful. While we're waiting for that to thicken, I'll talk you through a few alternatives if you can't get hold of the red currants. I reckon it'll work really well with fresh raspberries. Stay away from anything like a strawberry, because we're relying on some of that tartness from a red currant. They taste a little bit like a raspberry, but slightly more floral. It's that kind of flavour, so a strawberry's just not going to cut it. I mean, it'd be all right. You could do it at a pinch, but it's not going to be amazing. Just had a look online, and you can buy dried red currants if you look online, so that's another option. I think it'd probably work quite well with cranberries, you know, as like an alternative to cranberry sauce. Blackberries would probably work. Black currants might work quite well. It'll change the flavour, but it'll have a very different approach. Be really quite tasty, I think. Blueberries, again, they're too sweet, I think. You could do cooking apples, like Bramley apples if you're in the UK, or maybe Granny Smith, because they're nice and tart and crisp. That might work. I've not tried it, so I can't tell you exactly what the outcome will be. Chutneys are a really great way of using up fresh fruit and veg, because otherwise the stuff goes bad. So just bang in loads of things in a pan, vinegar, sugar, and then you've got something that will last for a few weeks. So that's thickened now. So let's head over and add in the currants. If you're picking your own berries, you'll see they come on like a little vine almost. The easiest way to get them off that vine is to drag them through the tines of a fork, and that pops them off the little stems. I might actually let this go another couple minutes, turn the heat up again, just to reduce a bit further. So now it's thickened a bit more, so I'm going to drop the temperature, putting it on 4. You see that gorgeous colour, lovely red. So let's tumble those in, and then gently work them through. And then we're going to simmer those again for another 5 minutes or so. These have been bubbling away for 5 or 6 minutes. We're looking for them to burst, but to retain some of their shape. I'm going to sterilise a jar, and then I'll pack everything into that. Covered that just to keep it a little bit warm while I wait for the jar to sterilise. Just remembered I should have done it before I started rolling, really. I'm just chilling down a small amount of the chutney, and then we can do some tasting. Got a little bit of the cool down chutney, and I've got some Cathedral City vegan cheese and some crackers. It's still quite runny. I thought it would set firmer than that. That's the stage it's at. So it's not, liquid, but that should be okay for our purposes now at least. So I've loaded up a cracker with some cheese. Yum. It's sweet and tangy, but then there's lots of lovely spiced flavours going on from the 5 spice, the mustard seeds. That's delicious. Red currants are apparently really high in natural pectin, which is a gelling agent. If you've seen a can of cranberry sauce, when you take out the can, it remains in the can shape. That's the pectin that's doing that. I've got 2 options. I can either just accept it that way, which is fine. It's not going to taste any different if it's thicker. Or I can boil it again till it hits 105 centigrade. And that apparently is the temperature to trigger the pectin. I did have it at a rolling boil though, so I'm not sure if that would do anything. So I'll decide once I've finished filming and update the pinned comment if I decide to do it and if it does anything. I think that will be amazing on a burger, as well as things like hot dogs, even sausages and mash, because it's got some really vibrant, bright flavours. It'll stand up to a quite strong tasting thing. Like a burger's got quite a distinct flavour. I think it will pair really nicely with that. I've got a block of tofu in the fridge, so I think for dinner I might cut a few slices off and pack them up the outsides with Old Bay seasoning, and then have some on the side. And I think the flavours of the Old Bay will go really nicely with that. That'll be amazing on the side of the spinach and feta pie that I posted a few weeks ago, because the feta's really salty and tangy. So I think the sweetness and the kind of spice notes in there will pair really, really well with that. I think it'll work nicely on the side of that breakfast crinkle cake that I did, the kind of layered phyllo one, because that's kind of eggy and cheesy. Pop the link to that in the description for you as well. If you want to make like a little nibbly platter kind of thing, the chia crackers that I made, they'll go really nicely with that because they've got that nice crispness. They think that would, yeah. I'm going to make a batch tomorrow just so I can eat it with the chutney. I'll say a great big thank you to my supporters on Patreon. Having your support means a lot to me, and it's nice to have people listening to my waffling on in my weekly posts. If you want to join up, I'll leave the link down in the description for you. There's viewer polls, what kind of episode you want to see, or if there's any recipes you want me to have a go at, all that kind of thing. So if you want some behind the scenes extra access, you know where to go. If you don't want to miss out on any of the delicious plant-based and sometimes seasonally relevant recipes that are published every week, hit subscribe and turn on notifications if you want to get a pop-up whenever they're ready for you. While you're waiting for the next one, drop a little like down below and then head over to this one.